be blisteringly fast. Nowadays, a top player may even consider this to be somewhat of a casual playthrough, but back then, it would have been pretty intense. Over the next year, Demon Lord spearheaded this category, lowering the record multiple times. He eventually landed on a run of 36 minutes and 9 seconds on the 24th of September 1996. It's here that we begin to see glimpses of the type of speedrunning we might see today. On map 20, he begins by immediately jumping into the lava and executing a wall run to quickly reach a teleportal, a technique that is literally used in the current world record. Still, most levels are played in a standard fashion with very little skips or exploits used. Despite many levels being obviously far from optimal, even with these strategies used, Demon Lord felt that he wouldn't be able to go much lower. He concluded his attached notes by saying, "This is probably my last 30 UV recording. I don't think it's possible to push it much more without cheating." This was right around the time Uwe Gerlich and Stefan Winterfeld were being exposed for using slow motion, so the cheating remark is likely a direct reference to that entire situation. In any case, it turns out Demon Lord believed what he said. Despite going on to do some incredible work elsewhere over the next few years, this would be the last submission in this category he would ever complete. Evidently, Demon Lord's run wasn't terrible, as it would take almost 3 years before anyone would touch it. The late 90s saw a slew of incredible gamers see their way into the Doom speedrunning scene. One that was particularly impactful was a Hungarian man by the name of Adam Hedgy. Not only was Adam one of the greatest Doom players of all time, but he also maintained the primary Doom speedrunning demo hosting website Compet-N from 1998 to 2005. The history of Compet-N is actually really interesting, and we are going to delve a bit deeper into that specific topic a bit later in the video. On the 5th of March 1999, Adam Hedgy obliterated Demon Lord's existing record by over 5 minutes, with a run of 30 minutes and 54 seconds. Adam was the first person to really start introducing very precise jumps into the run, a perfect example being map 6, where he was able to successfully perform 2 jumps that shaved off a lot of time. The first was a lift jump to make it to the blue keycard, something that Demon Lord had attempted but failed. And the second was a tight jump to the yellow keycard door leading to the exit, which skips having to activate and wait for a platform to rise. Another amazing player that came into the Doom scene in the late 90s was the Norwegian Henning Skogsto. Henning is most known for his prowess in the Nightmare category, where he was dominant for many years. On the 13th of June 1999, he dethroned Hedgy's run with a time of 29 minutes and 24 seconds. Strategic decisions that were made solely in the interest of survivability are beginning to be discarded. In map 3, where players would previously take a detour to collect the Mega Armor, Invisibility, and the Megasphere, Henning skipped this completely, and even included a jump to the window next to the blue keycard door, skipping the blue keycard as well. More sequence breaks were beginning to be incorporated, like the red bar skip on map 14. Using this one jump alone, Henning was able to gain over 20 seconds on the previous record. The interesting thing about many of these jumps is that they were discovered years earlier, most in 1996. But Doom was still such a brutal game that many of the known exploits were still unused in full game runs, in order to preserve consistency. Henning's record would remain unbroken for over 3 years until the American runner Archvile destroyed it with a 26-minute and 57-second run on the 6th of December 2002. Like Henning, Archvile was also a nightmare specialist. In fact, between the years 1999 and 2015, only 2 players held the full game nightmare speed record: Henning Skogsto and Archvile. Joining in the early 2000s, Archvile has one of the longest careers in Doom history, and still submits insane demos to this very day. Again, with Archvile's new run, more sacrifices were made in regards to safety. Even though Doom 2 consists of 30 main levels, players were still going through levels 31 and 32, the 2 secret Wolfenstein levels. An argument for speed could have been made at the time for going through level 31, as reaching the secret exit on map 15 and then going through map 31 was actually faster than completing map 15 normally. But one such argument could certainly not be made for map 32, as it was definitely quicker to reach the normal exit on map 31 and go back to map 16. In fact, the only reason players were playing Map 32 at all was just to stock up on health and armor. Vile chose to skip the health attained on Map 32 and instead pick up an invulnerability sphere on the next level. Aside from this, movement was getting much better, and more individual level strategies were being implemented, or at least attempted. Vile's record would remain strong for an entire year, until it was edged out by the Czech runner Radek Peka. On the 28th of December 2003, he would submit a run of 26 minutes and 9 seconds. Radek would be the first person to implement the Archvile trick on Map 27. In order to reach the exit portal, you need to attain the red key. In order to reach the red key, you need the blue key. And to get the blue key, you need the yellow key. So ultimately, you need to collect all 3 keys. But you can skip everything if you can manipulate an Archvile into opening the final door. Again, this was another trick that had been discovered at least 7 years prior by the player Laszlo Magori. But as time goes on and speedruns become more optimized, players are left with no choice but to bring in strategies that might not be 100% consistent. Radek's run would last a long time. It would be the longest lasting record in the category's history, standing for 2,534 days, just shy of 7 years. Was this because the run was so impressive that no one else could touch it? Was it really that optimized? Well, not really, and long-lasting records around this time weren't uncommon at all. Quite frankly, Doom speedrunning in general was going through the most inactive period ever, a time that players would refer to as the Dark Age. In order to understand why Doom was going through its most dormant phase, we must understand the context in which Doom speedrunning came into existence. As previously mentioned, the website that maintained all of the speedrunning demos for the original Doom games was Compet.N. It was created in November of 1994 by Simon Widlake. Compet.N was an abbreviation of the word competition, and the community instantly grew in popularity, with many demos being submitted. In 1997, the reins were handed over to Istvan Pataki, who maintained the site until 1998, at which time Adam Hedgy gained control. Something else very important happened in 1998, the release of the operating system Windows 98. This was the final release of Windows that could allow users to boot into MS-DOS mode, which is where many Doom speedrunners launched their game from. Beyond this, when Windows 2000 was released and the operating system switched over to the NT architecture, DOS compatibility was lost entirely. Newer operating systems came with DOS virtual machines, and certainly were not able to run Doom well. Players that upgraded to newer systems were essentially screwed, and unless they kept their old computers,